Hello and welcome to an Affinity Revolution tutorial. My name is Ezra Anderson, and today we're going to learn the top 10 things beginners want to know how to do in the iPad version of Affinity Photo. If you'd like to follow along with the same images that I'll be using, I've put a download link in the video description. After opening a picture inside Affinity Photo, the first thing beginners want to know is how this program is organized. On the left side, you'll find the various tools you need to edit your pictures. We have things like a Move tool, which allows you to resize objects, a paintbrush, an eraser, and various healing tools. As you select each one of those tools, you'll notice that different options appear at the bottom. This is called your contextual toolbar. It gives you different options depending on which tool you have selected. With any of the options, you can click and drag to the right on any of these circles to increase the number. Or you can click and drag to the left to decrease the number. Or if you prefer, you can just tap once on any of the circles and then type in a specific number. Now coming to the right side, we have our various studios. The two studios you'll use the most are the Layer Studio and the Adjustment Studio. If you want to close a studio, just press on its icon a second time. At the top left, we have an arrow which will take you back to the home screen, and right next to it, we have the Document menu. This gives you various options like exporting and printing. A little bit more to the right, we have the personas. Each persona gives you a different workspace. Right now we're in the photo persona, but notice how the tools change when we go into the selection persona. The tools change once again when we go into the liquify persona. Depending on which persona you're in, the tools on the left side will change. And perhaps most importantly of all, we have the undo and redo arrows at the bottom right. And underneath those two arrows, we have a question mark which you can click and hold on to see all of the names of the various tools and studios inside the program. Now that we've seen the basic layout of this program, we're now on to the second thing beginners want to know how to do, and that is how to crop a photo. To crop a picture, we'll need to use the crop tool. Remember that you can find your tools on the left side. The crop tool is the fourth one down. Now it's as easy as clicking and dragging on the handles to crop the photo wherever you want. When you're satisfied with your crop, just press on the check mark. If you don't like the way your picture's been cropped, you can always use the undo arrow at the bottom right, or you can use the crop tool and crop out. Then just press on the check mark again, and the new crop will be applied to your picture. Number 3 on our list is how to use adjustment layers. To use an adjustment layer, we'll need to open the Adjustment Studio, which we can find on the right side. There's many adjustments we can make to a picture from the Adjustment Studio. As an example, let's use the first adjustment, black and white. To apply this adjustment, simply press on the black and white icon. Automatically, our picture's been converted to black and white. But we're given additional options at the bottom to customize how our black and white picture looks. We can change how light or dark any of the colors become when our picture is turned into black and white. For example, we can decrease the green slider by clicking and dragging to the right, which will make the greens darker. If you want to lighten or darken the skin tones in a picture, you can use the red and yellow sliders. I want to make the skin tones in this picture a little bit brighter, so I'm going to click and drag to the right on the red and yellow sliders. If we come to the Layers Studio at the top right, you'll notice that we have a new layer on top of our background picture. All layers inside Affinity Photo can be turned on and off by pressing on the check mark to the right of the layer. If we wanted to add another adjustment layer, all we would need to do is come back to the Adjustment Studio and click on whichever adjustment we wanted to add. As an example, let's press on the Brightness and Contrast icon. Now in the Contextual toolbar, we have the option to make the picture brighter or darker or more or less contrasted. Let's bring the brightness up and the contrast. Now if we come back to the Layer Studio, we can see how the brightness and contrast layer is affecting our picture by checking it off and on. By using multiple adjustment layers, you can do a lot to improve the quality of your pictures. Up next on our list is how to make selections. To make any selections, we'll need to enter the selection persona. There are many ways to make selections, but the easiest is to use the Smart Selection brush. With this tool, all you need to do is click and drag to begin painting an area that you want to select. As an example, I'm going to select the eye in this picture. If you ever select too much, you can change the mode from Add to Subtract inside the Contextual toolbar. Now anything you paint across will be removed from your selection. And of course, you can always change back to Add mode if you need to add more to your selection. The reason selections are so important is it allows us to apply an adjustment layer to only where our selection is. To see this, I'm going to open the Adjustment Studio and then scroll down a little bit and select an HSL adjustment. Now as I click and drag on the Hue slider in the Contextual toolbar, it will only change the hue of the area I have selected. When you're done with your selection and want to affect the entire picture again, you can tap once with 2 fingers anywhere on the picture and then press Deselect. Selections can sometimes be difficult to make, but they are the key to making realistic adjustments to a picture. Number 5 on our list is how to use a layer mask. A mask hides and reveals certain parts of a layer. A white mask will show all parts of a picture, but a black mask will hide all parts of a picture. An easy way to remember this is black is like nighttime, where you can't see. So if you have a black mask applied, you can't see your layer. To see how this works, I'm going to open the Layer Studio and then press on the mask icon, which looks like a Japanese flag. Then we'll select New Mask Layer. You can see that we now have a white mask applied to our picture. Because it's completely white, all parts of our picture are being shown. But if we press on the triangle to the left of our layer and make sure that we have the mask selected, then we can use our paintbrush tool to paint in black to hide parts of the layer. Let's select the paintbrush tool, and with our color as black inside the Contextual toolbar, we can begin painting to hide parts of the layer. If we change our color from black to white, then as we begin painting, we'll show parts of the layer. And just like any other layer, we can turn a mask off and on by pressing on the check mark. We no longer need this mask, so I'm going to press on the trash can at the top right to delete it. Now that we understand how a mask works, let's see a more practical application. I'm going to come to the Adjustment Studio and then apply a brightness and contrast adjustment layer. I'm going to decrease the brightness and increase the contrast. This effect is obviously much too strong to apply to the entire picture, but what we can do is make it so it's only applied to the sky. To do this, we'll use a mask. Fortunately, every adjustment layer comes pre-built with a mask. To see this, come to the Layer Studio, and you'll see that our adjustment layer has a white mask applied to it automatically. This means that anywhere we paint in black, this adjustment layer will be hidden. But because we want this adjustment layer to only be shown in the sky and not the rest of the picture, I think it would be easier to hide the entire adjustment layer and then just paint in white to reveal it in the sky. First, we'll need to invert this mask so it goes from completely white to completely black. To invert a layer, come to the Channel Studio and then press on the 3 circles to the right of the layer that you want to invert. We want to invert the brightness and contrast adjustment layer, so I'll press on the 3 circles to the right of it. Then I'll press Invert. Now if we come back to the Layer Studio, you'll see that we now have a black mask applied to our brightness and contrast adjustment layer. Now if we select the paintbrush, we can begin painting in white to reveal this adjustment just to the sky. When you're painting in adjustments, you'll want to lower the hardness of your paintbrush. Right now, as I begin painting, you'll notice that my paintbrush strokes are very harsh. But if I lower the hardness from 100% to 0%, then my paintbrush will have very soft strokes. To make my painting go a little faster, I'll also increase the width. Now I'll paint across the sky to reveal this adjustment layer. Now our brightness and contrast adjustment layer is only being applied to the sky, which we can see by checking this layer off and on. Applying a mask or making a selection are both great ways to target adjustments to specific parts of your pictures. Next on our list is how to put one picture inside of another picture. To do this, we need to make a selection of the part of the picture that we want to put inside another picture. As we've already learned, to make selections, we need to come to the selection persona. Then with our Smart Selection brush, we can paint a selection across this bird. An important part of making selections is to refine your selection. To do this, we can press on the Refine Selection tool. Then we just need to paint over the parts of the picture that we want Affinity to take a second look at. In particular, this is very helpful when making selections of hair or fur. I'm going to paint over the parts of the picture that I want Affinity to refine. That selection is looking much better. Now I'll press on the check mark to confirm my selection. To copy what we have selected, we need to come to the photo persona and then tap once with 2 fingers. Now we can press Copy. To come over to our other picture, I'm going to press on the arrow at the top left to go back to my home screen. Then I'll select the mountain picture and tap once with 2 fingers and press Paste. If you want to resize or position the new layer, you can use the Move tool. Now you can use the circular handles on the edges of this layer to make it bigger or smaller. You can also click and drag to move it wherever you want. If you want to remove the selection box, you can go back to the View tool and it will disappear. Putting one picture inside of another is as easy as making a selection and then copying and pasting. Number 7 on our list is how to clean up pictures. One of the most common things you'll want to clean up is people's skin. Fortunately, Affinity makes this very easy to do. First, I'm going to duplicate our picture so we can see a before and after. To duplicate the picture, I'll tap once with 2 fingers, and then press Duplicate. If you look inside the Layer Studio, you'll notice that we now have 2 duplicate copies of the picture. Now we're going to use the In-Painting Brush tool to remove the blemishes from this picture. To access the In-Painting Brush tool, click on the Clone Brush tool, and then click once again. Now you can select In-Painting Brush. This tool is very easy to use. All you need to do is paint over the parts of the picture that you want Affinity to remove. I'm going to pinch to zoom in, and then paint over the parts of the picture that I want Affinity to clean up. As you can see, this tool is practically magic in how easy it is to clean up skin. Let's keep going and clean up the skin a little bit more. If you want to move around your photo, you can click and drag with 2 fingers. To see the entire picture again, tap twice with 2 fingers. Now we can see the before and after by turning off and on the top layer. The In-Painting Brush tool is great for cleaning up skin, but it can clean up other parts of a picture as well. For example, we could use the In-Painting Brush tool to clean up some of the rocks that we don't want in the picture. We can see that Affinity has easily removed some of these rocks from the photo. When using the In-Painting Brush tool, I recommend that you start off by removing small imperfections from your photo, and then work towards removing the bigger imperfections. That's because the In-Painting Brush tool works by using the information in the surrounding area to fill in the imperfection that you're trying to fix. If you have more area with good information, then it will be easier to remove the bigger imperfections from your photo. Number 8 on our list is how to use the Develop persona. The Develop persona gives you basic options for correcting the color in your picture. To use the Develop persona, first select the layer that you want to edit, and then click on the Develop persona icon. Now we have many options on the right side to edit the colors of our picture. Let's try increasing the exposure and also bringing the brightness up. I'll also add a little bit of contrast and some clarity. Then I'll bring up the vibrance and raise the temperature. To see a before and after of your edits, you can press on the split view icon in the contextual toolbar. When you're finished working inside the Develop persona, press Develop in the contextual toolbar. You're then taken back into the photo persona. The sliders in the Develop persona make it easy to enhance the colors of your picture. If you're a photographer that shoots in RAW, you'll also use the Develop persona to work with your RAW images. You'll know that you're editing a RAW picture if Affinity Photo automatically opens in the Develop persona. But if Affinity automatically opens your picture in the Photo persona, then you can know that you're working with a JPEG. But as we've seen, we can use the Develop persona to work with JPEGs in addition to RAW photos. Now that we've seen how the Develop persona works, we're up to number 9 on our list, how to add text to a photo. To add text to a picture, you'll need to use the Artistic Text tool. Once you have this tool selected, click and drag to specify how big you want your text to be. Then type whatever you want it to say. When you're done typing, select the Move tool. Then you can resize and position the text. I'm going to tap twice with 2 fingers so I can see my entire picture again. To change our text, we need to use the Text Studio. Here we can change just about anything with our text, including the font and color. I'm going to change the font from Arial to something more interesting. Then I'll change the color from black to white. Our text is already fairly visible right now, but sometimes text will be difficult to see on your pictures. If this happens, you might want to add a rectangle behind your text. To do this, I'm going to close the Text Studio and then zoom out just a little bit. Then I'll select the Rectangle tool and click and drag to make a rectangle. Now I'll go into the Color Studio and change this rectangle to black. It looks like it's on top of our text right now, so I'm going to open the Layer Studio and then click and drag it underneath the text layer. Right now, it looks a little intense, so I'm going to press on the 3 circles at the top left of the Layer Studio and then lower its opacity to about 50%. Then I can use the Move tool to reposition the text and rectangle. And finally, we are to number 10 on our list, how to save and export your work. Affinity makes saving your work a breeze. All you need to do is press on the home arrow at the top left. Anytime you go back to the home screen, your work is automatically saved. You'll see that if we go back to our sunflower picture, all of our edits were correctly saved. If you want to export your work, we'll press on the Document menu and then select Export. At the top, you can change the file format that your work will be exported in. Generally, you'll use JPEG or PNG. Going down a little bit, we can change the width and height of our picture. You might want to do this if you need to make your picture a smaller file size. Near the very bottom, you'll see that our picture is 2.95 megabytes. But if I decrease the width, now it's only 2.46 megabytes. We can also lower the quality if we want to decrease file size. If I take the quality from 100% just down to 95%, you'll see that our file size is now under 1 megabyte. When you're satisfied with all of the settings, you can press OK. Then you just need to choose where your picture will be exported and press Add at the top right. However, I'm going to cancel this and show you that you can also share your photo by pressing Share at the bottom left. By sharing your export, you can send it in an iMessage, over email, or airdrop it to someone. Affinity gives us a wide variety of options for exporting and sharing our work. Thanks for watching! I hope you learned a lot from this tutorial. If you want to learn even more about the iPad version of Affinity Photo, I'll put a link in the video description for our complete beginner's guide to this program. It shows every tool and technique you need to master this program. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Affinity Revolution tutorial.